You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and town board will be sent copies of tonight's decisions. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table at the front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing each application is as follows. After each application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will be asked to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the committee's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. Because of the number of applications tonight, I'm asking that all testimony be kept brief and to the point. The applicant will have 5 minutes to present information on their application, other than questions from the committee. Anyone else wishing to speak should limit the testimony to 3 minutes, and any rebuttal by the applicant will also be limited to 3 minutes. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recording will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as any slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by the administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustments. Information and applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability, makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To my left is Robert Wadle, Fred Gallerup, Larry Crawford. I'm Joe Piasky, I'm the vice chair, and to my right is Terry Dopp-Hochstedt, the zoning administrator. Our first application tonight is for SBA Towers 3, LLC of Boca Raton, Florida. Scott Taylor, landowner, has made an application for conditional use in accordance with sections 58-236, parentheses B, parentheses 20, and 58-454, parentheses 33 of the Waushara County Zoning Code to place a 250-foot self-supporting wireless communication tower in the MG General Manufacturing Zone. The parcel of land being south 17 acres of the east one half of the southeast one quarter, southwest one quarter, section 36, Town of Rose, N 4935, State Road 21. Is the applicant here? You come forward. Could you present a little bit of your presentation?
Yes, Ron Zeckel and the owners here too. What we're proposing, this is another one of the Verizon wireless applications in the county areas. They're trying to upgrade the high-speed internet and 4G capacity of the area in question. We're looking here at in Town of Rose, a proposed 250-foot communications tower. This is pretty much our standard tower. The nearest towers are about 1.8 miles to the north, and we've got Verizon's got dead spots in this area. I know there's another town tower to the east that was judged too low. We're looking at putting again a 250-foot tower that could be capable of up to 4 to 6 carriers, communications carriers, with a 100 by 100 foot compound. We're kind of squeezed back in the commercial area in back of the property. He's got front porch pets area there that he's working with, and we put it in the farthest area back that's surrounded by the wood area. Obviously, we had a request of variance or Board of Adjustment because of the terrain on all three sides goes down to goes up too high, and it's just we pushed it in back so it would be good for the property owners and it's good for us. So we think it'll be a big asset to the community. This one has been FAA cleared. Does have a dual lighting system with a no hazard, and if there's questions on that, but it's a standard three-legged stainless steel communications tower. And we would probably expect multiple carriers to come on this because obviously we're at a point, like I've said before, we're at a point where we're starting to come off the landlines, and it's going to get to a critical mass here, and there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be built. No one really wants to build a lot of towers because they're very, very expensive. However, if you can't use the existing ones, you have to put the infrastructure in and the money supporting. So I'll leave myself open to questions here, but that's the basis of the proposal.
Okay, we have some questions for you.
Okay, what sort of traffic is anticipated at the site?
The traffic is, the only traffic that is generated by the communications towers is once a month, an operations person will come on the site. It's a non-manned area. It's got obviously a equipment building in. It's a non-manned area with equipment switching in. They check it once a month, so unless there's an emergency situation. So no, there's no traffic.
Are you sure of the lot lines?
Yes, they've been surveyed.
Will the proposed tower be at least 75% of its height from the nearest lot line?
No, it'll be 50% or 130 feet, which is why we asked for the Board of Adjustment. And we could not move it any further west or east or north because of the terrain aerial coming in. Terrain in that area buries it, but that's obviously a good thing because it buries the tower itself except for the top.
Will the property be leased, or do you plan on purchasing the land?
No, this will be a leased property.
Will the area be fenced in?
Yes, the 100 by 100 foot area will be fenced in with a 6-foot chain link fence.
Are there any utility structures planned within the fencing? And if so, how many and how large will they be?
Utility structures as far as
Like building?
there will be this first application would be the Verizon co-location, wireless co-location on the SBA tower. There is up to a 12 by 26 foot equipment building of brick that goes in there. Most carriers use either that range or a set of cabinets.
Are you aware that the county has a long-standing policy of requiring highly visible paint and lighting schemes for all towers because of our intensive agricultural use and the frequent aerial applicators for growing crops?
Yes, we are, and we'll adhere to you if you approve us.
Will the tower be painted?
Yes, it will be if that's part of the conditions.
And the lighting,
Lighting is a dual, because it is a 250 foot, this is a dual system, which means that halfway up the structure, there's the low intensity red light, 3 red lights on the legs, and they shoot upward. They're not very low intensity. Then you have a top light at the top that's at 250 foot, and then it runs at white during the day and red at night.
okay, our zoning code requires that you must prove that it is not feasible to build on any other existing tower in the area. Have you studied other towers in the area, and can you explain why they are not suitable for your equipment?
Yes, we have. We've looked, there's a U.S. Cellular tower to the north, about a mile, or 1.8 miles, I believe. And that's just too far. We're trying to cover the 22 down and O crossed. It's just too far north. It'll compromise, obviously, a service. Probably require additional towers around. That's basically the only comparable one.
And you said that there will be space on there for other people to lease it. Are you planning on putting that up for lease then?
Yes, these towers are built for maximum amount of carriers on there, and obviously to avoid multiple situations of, again, nobody wants to build towers if they don't have to because they're expensive.
And this tower will support the other users' antennas?
Minimum 4, yeah, minimum 4, and so will a compound. They actually can probably take 6, maybe up to 8, depending like if county equipment comes on or emergency equipment comes on. The 100 by 100 foot compound would easily handle 4 to 6 additional carriers inside the compound without change.
Are you familiar with the county requirements regarding financial sureties for the removal of the tower if it is no longer needed?
Yes.
Are you familiar with all other requirements, including FAA, FCC, and state building codes?
Yes.
Are you aware of the county's requirements regarding posting of emergency contact information?
Yes.
You will be sharing the existing driveway, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
The driveway and the landowner may may look to improve his property further by going north on this property, and we may have to adjust the driveway, but it's a shared easement with the landowner, with the existing.
The way it looks, you will need a separate fire number from the existing business, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if approved, when do you anticipate the tower would start to be constructed?
It would look to be this summer. We're still clearing a couple issues, but it would typically, I would think, within 2 to 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any correspondence?
Yes, we have a letter from the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association received today, and it's addressed to me, and it says the WAAA has no objection to the 2 proposed self-supporting communication towers that will be discussed at the public hearing this evening. The proposed locations are not near current vegetable production fields that would create hazards to aerial application pilots. The fact that the towers are self-supporting and lit makes them more visible obstructions to pilots of low-level operations aircraft. We appreciate being made of the proposed towers at this stage of the approval process. And that's signed, thank you, Damon Reby, President of the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association. And then on April 15th, we received a letter from Terrence R. Barkalow, to whom it may concern. I'm responding to the public hearing notice that I received in regard to the conditional use variance hearing for SBA Towers LLC, Scott Taylor landowner. I would like it to go on record that I, as an adjacent landowner, have no objection to this request based on the information facts stated in the notice. I do request that if there are changes in the information initially released to me, that I be notified. And again, that's signed respectfully, Terrence R. Barkalow. And that's it for correspondence.
Anyone in favor speak?
No,
Got objection?
we do have one in a, oh, just a minute. We're getting another letter. It says, good afternoon, David. Received just now. I will not be able to make the meeting tonight. I will support the building of a Verizon tower on the Front Porch Pets property. You can read this during the meeting, and that's signed regards, Dan Milkey. And then we do have this one.
This is David Baldus, Wild Rose. Speak in favor? Come on up.
I'm David, and I have a lease option to buy on the property at this particular property, 4935 State Road 22. And I do believe that this will be a good thing for the community, and so I obviously would like to do it. I do hope that you did get the fact that I would like to put a greenhouse on this property at some time too. We do make dog treats here, and our goal is to use some of the heat from our dehydration to heat some greenhouses, so we can use the greenhouses to grow mint, parsley, thyme, chamomile, and other items that we use in our dog treats. So we think that that would be a good marketing approach for our company. And so the only thing I would mention is that recently I gave Ron an adjustment to how the easement would go, and I don't think there's a problem with that. So if that's the case, then I'm in favor of it.
Okay. And then we did have one registered in opposition. I want to make sure you wanted to be registered for this tower on the corner of 22 and O, and not the one on O and 73. So never mind, that's for
That's
the next
73
one.
one?
When I saw your address, I thought we had the wrong one.
Okay,
So
anybody-
that's it for people registered.
Staff comments.
This is a conditional use application. Conditional uses are not uses that are permitted outright in the zone. They are uses that can be permitted, provided conditions can be placed on them to keep them somewhat in keeping with the surrounding area. There's always going to be an impact, but you want to try to have these things fit into the surrounding area. Cell towers are common conditional use applications in our county, in the general agricultural zone, the manufacturing zone like this is, and the commercial zone. So that's what we're looking at here. When the committee visited the property, they noted that the proposed location is tucked into an old sand and gravel pit. They did not view very many homes that were actually visible from the site where the tower was going to be. And they also noted that the tower should have a separate address number should it be approved. That's it. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Does the applicant have any rebuttal? Anything you want to say?
I'll just clarify what David said. If we have, as far as the access coming in, because he's thinking about coming back to you and proposing a greenhouse expansion, and we're just going to move our access coming in. We want to move the tower, it'd just be the access work, like to make sure we don't conflict with his future expansion plans. That's all.
Our next application is Central State Tower 2 LLC, Wheaton, Illinois. Capital Tree and Land Company Incorporated landowner has made an application for conditional use in accordance with Section 58, 236, parentheses B, parentheses 20, and 58, 454, parentheses 33, the Washare County zoning code to place a 200-foot self-supporting wireless communication tower in AG 10 zone, general agricultural, 10-acre minimum zone. The location of approximate 38.57 acre parcel of land being part of the northwest one quarter of the northeast one quarter, Section 6, Town of Watoma, State Road 73 and County Road O. The applicant here? Come forward and tell us a little bit about it.
This is another tower. Now, I'd like to amend this because it's only going to be a 195-foot tower. We had worked with the U.S. Department of Interior on this because it is close to the Ice Age Trail, and we agreed with them. Normally, we're going to propose a 250-footer, and we agreed to drop it down below the 199-foot level. So we went to 195 with a 4-foot lightning rod. And they were requesting that we look to consider not lighting it. Anytime you go under 199 feet, you aren't usually required unless the county would impose that condition on this thing. So in this particular case, we're looking again along this corridor 173, trying to get coverage in there, which is very sparse, and there's really nothing available there. There's a GTP tower that we look closely at that's 1.8 miles or 1.95 miles to the north, which is just too far for us to come to cover this area. So we had to propose something in this area to cover both ways and to tie into this Town of Rose Tower to make sure the residents get enough coverage in there for the 4G. Again, this is the work. This is a 195-foot tower capable of carrying 4 to 6 carriers, 3-legged tower again, stainless steel, or with a 100 by 100-foot compound. We were able to adjust for the sketch we gave you, to adjust the tower over into this compound to make sure we had the required 75% setback as required. And again, this will have the fencing and so forth. And we do a lot of these applications with farmers because they can work right around us, and at the same time they get revenue to keep their property long term, and it usually works out as a good arrangement because it gives the people around it the top 4G coverage. So I'll leave it there and go from there.
We have some questions for you.
Good evening. I've got some questions about this, some similar questions to the previous tower application.
Okay.
What sort of traffic is anticipated?
Again, this is a non-manned, only one time a month at the most, unless there's an emergency situation.
Okay, and the lot lines, you're sure of them?
Yes, been surveyed.
And will the proposed tower be at least 75% of its height from all lot lines and road rights of way?
Yes.
Will the property be leased, or do you plan on purchasing the land?
This is a lease, long-term lease.
What will be fenced on that site?
The fencing will encompass the 100 by 100-foot compound, again, to encompass the tower and any future and proposed equipment buildings.
And would you explain what kinds of utility buildings, numbers there are on that site?
Right now, there would only be the initial Verizon wireless building to go along with its antennas on here, which go up to 12 by 26. eventually the site could have additional.
Okay, and you are aware of the longstanding policy of requiring highly visible paint and lighting schemes for all towers because of the intensive agricultural activity?
We,
in the
we
area?
are aware of that. We would ask you to really look closely at that condition because of the letter with the Department of Interior. They wanted to kind of stealth it as much as possible, and we agree. That's one of the reasons we agreed to bring it under 199. We'd like you to look at that as a committee because once you take a tower under 200 feet, you usually don't have to go with lighting unless a county requires it. We'd ask you to look at waiving that for our compliance with the department. It's not a requirement, it's just something that they said to consider to reduce all the impacts around with the Ice Age Trail. So we made that adjustment. We would like to be up a lot higher, but we made the adjustment with them, you know, so
And so this tower is 195 feet?
under 95 feet.
Okay. And the tower will be painted the usual red and white pattern?
Normally, I mean, we will. We'd like to say, hey, why don't we just leave it as stainless because it's non-visible, less visible, and we would ask you to look at possibly looking at that to waive too. But we will, we would conform to it if you required it.
And the safety lighting, what is proposed?
Right now, there's really no safety lighting on this because it's under the FAA airspace. If we were going to go above 200, then we'd be required to go that route. I mean, we could at a minimum, you know, put a flashing red light on without an issue, but it's really under the no hazard zone right now because of the height. So we'd like the committee to look at that and say, you know, if it's not needed, it's not needed to reduce the visibility in the area. But we will conform.
Okay.
Yes.
And our code requires that you must prove that it is not feasible to build on any other existing towers in the area. Have you studied other towers to make sure that there is no availability on those towers and that they are not suitable, or they are not suitable for your equipment?
Yeah, we look closely at the one in the north with GTP, and we work with them a lot on a lot of installations, and we couldn't use it, so it's just too far north.
Our zoning code also requires you must agree to lease additional space available on the tower to other companies at a fair market value. Does your company have a co-location policy regarding sharing tower space, and will the tower be able to support other users' hardware?
Yes, they do, and this tower can support 4 to 6 other carriers on it.
The committee noted that this proposal is not being positioned on the highest point of the landscape in this area. It has always been our understanding that higher in the landscape is generally preferred. Could you explain this to the committee, and so we will know what the situation is for the siting of this tower?
Sure. In this particular case, you know, obviously we work in a lot of farm fields. There's only, in this particular area, there's only if you go looking across the street, there's probably a 18-foot upgrade or whatever. But this particular area, we're gonna look at putting in the trees back in this area originally, and that causes us too much environmental areas. We prefer to keep it out in the open if possible and with the farmers. So there's not that much of a difference here, and as far as working with the landowner, we were content with this location.
Okay. And you are certainly familiar with the county requirements regarding financial sureties for the removal of the tower if it's no longer used?
Yes.
Are you familiar with all other requirements, including FAA, FCC, and the state building codes?
Yes.
Are you planning on installing a new driveway in this area?
Yes, and actually, well, we're just going to improve what's there. Actually, he's got a little gap in there and the trees in front of it. We're just going to improve basically his farm access coming in that road, and that's not going to be a major improvement. It'll just be adding gravel and a base, and he'll get his equipment in a little bit better off the street.
So whatever driveway you put in there leading to the tower will be a gravel driveway?
Yes.
All right. And have you talked to the county highway department about this installation?
Not yet. No. For fire number.
Are other driveways in the area onto in this area onto County Road O or State Road 73 that serve the public? Any other driveways?
There's driveways along that County O, and there's one across the street, and there's a couple down the way. whatever, and of course, we apply with the county for access in there. Obviously, that's being accessed anyway with the farmers, so.
So nothing off of
Nothing
73?
Nothing off of 73, no.
Okay. Are you aware of the county's requirements regarding posting of emergency contact information?
Yes.
And it looks as if you will need a new fire number on this site, is that correct?
That's correct.
If approved, when would the tower be constructed?
Again, the Verizon Wireless is looking at as soon as possible because there's a high demand here. And I think that's pretty obvious as far as the lack of coverage here.
Okay, that's all the questioning I have.
Correspondence, you can take a seat.
Yes, we have one letter, just like the last one, from the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association. I'll read it again for the record. It's addressed to me. The WAAA has no objection to the 2 proposed self-supporting communication towers that will be discussed at the public hearing this evening. The proposed locations are not near current vegetable production fields that would create hazards to aerial application pilots. The fact that the towers are self-supporting and lit makes them more visible obstructions to pilots of low-level operations aircraft. We appreciate being made aware of proposed towers at this stage of the approval process. And that's signed, thank you, Damon Reby, President of the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association. That's it for correspondence.
Anyone in favor to speak?
No.
Opposed?
Yes.
Leanne Vandier, Wathoma? Come up.
I own the property right next door to where they're gonna put the tower. We're in the process of trying to sell our property, and we feel that that will depreciate the value of our home. I also had concerns with the Ice Age Trail and how it would affect that. And my cellular phone reception, is that gonna change at all if I'm not one of the carriers that he listed? I don't know.
Next is Dennis Coach.
I oppose this because I'm already looking at 2 towers right across the way from me. They were already there before I built my home 2 years ago, so I can deal with that. Now this one's going to be in my backyard, right across the street from me. Now every window I look out of my house, I'm going to be looking at a tower.
James Coach.
Yes, I have the same problem. I can see the tower that's on Archer, the tower on 73. I can see that flash every night through my living room windows. Now I look out my bedroom windows, I'll have another tower to look at. Thank you very much.
Anybody else to speak of information?
Nope.
Next thing is staff comments.
This is another conditional use application, so it's the same, and it's actually another tower. When the committee visited the property, they noted that the proposed driveway location will need to be substantially upgraded when the driveway is installed. I'm not sure there was a driveway there. It was a pretty big drop-off, and there was no way we were going to go down there, so you will need to talk to the county highway department, and there probably is going to be some restriction on the number of driveways. You can't have multiple driveways access, so you will need to talk to them. The property will need an address number if it's approved, and then there certainly were several homes nearby that were visible from the site. The committee did note that. One of the comments made talked about depreciation of property values, and I did research this just a couple months ago quite thoroughly, and when I talked to local assessors, they told me that there was not an effect on the property that the tower was placed on, nor was there an effect on properties nearby from tower location. There's nothing in their assessment guide that tells them to raise or lower the property values, so at least from their standpoint, it did not have an effect. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have studied recent sales and done all that. But as far as their ability to assess a property near a tower or even with a tower on it, that's the assessment is done by the Department of Revenue for the tower itself, and they do not take that into consideration when they assess a property. That's it for my comments.
The applicant have any rebuttal?
And I'll just address the Ice Age. Obviously, we're making a compromise here to bring the tower down from 250 to under 195. There's a big difference there. So we've worked with the Ice Age Trail and their concerns, and that's why we got the letters from the Department of Interior and so forth. So again, we ask you to take a look at the lighting. We'll adhere to what the county requires. You want us to paint it, we'll paint it. Want us to light it, we'll light it. But right now, we're not required to. So unless you put that requirement in there. So we made that compromise. So there's obviously we took off 55 feet, and that's a big difference. Now, as far as values, obviously, I think you're going to get to the point where, and some people, the landlines are eventually going to come off. We're at a point where they've applied no longer, and in probably 5-6 years, they're not going to be no longer have to service the landlines and keep putting money into them. This is going to go all wireless. So the higher speed wireless, and if you don't have cell coverage and you don't have wireless, you're going to have some depreciation in your values because people are going to have a hard time communicating. Obviously, there's a frustration because there are going to be some infrastructure situations here where you got to build towers, and they're very, very expensive. So it's not something that, again, we don't look to go out and build these towers on that. If there's something we can possibly use, we try to use them. And then, of course, we try to minimize the siting of these things. Obviously, no matter where you put a tower, somebody's going to see it, obviously. But that's actually a good thing in many cases because if you can see a tower, you're going to be able to get reception. Now, the theory is, obviously you're going to have as many carriers come in here. Eventually, with the build-out, you're going to have all these carriers come in and fill all these towers up. And then at that point, you're going to have very good, solid 4G, where you can watch your TV on your cell phone when you're farming and so forth, and that's the object here. Again, infrastructure is something that you're going to see it for a while until the technology advances to the point where we don't need the towers anymore. So we'll try to do it best we can, but as far as the entrance, we'll work with the county and culvert or build a gravel up, whatever we need to, and make it as safe as possible. So.
Next one is Glenn and Patricia Arnold, son of Oshkosh, have made application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-236, parentheses 18, 58-454, parentheses 31, of the Washare County zoning code to store 2004 Cherokee Forest River 30-foot travel trailer in the AG General Ag Zone. Approximately 14.180 acre parcel land known as Lot 1 is certified survey map number 3020, being part of the southwest 1/4, northwest 1/4, and part of the southeast 1/4 and northwest 1/4, section 23, town of Richford, W10398 Cumberland Road. Applicant here. Come on forward. You tell us about your project.
I'm Glenn Arnellison, and I'd like to put a camper on my land, at least for the next 2 years. Our plan is to actually build a home on the land eventually, and to have the camper there would allow us to stay up there pretty much every weekend to clear trees and do what we need to prep it for the house being built. And then next year would be the actual building of the house. So we have a place to stay while we're there.
Okay, we have some questions for you.
Has there been a recent survey of the property?
There was just before we bought the land, and the previous landowner took me around to all the stakes that were in the ground and showed me all the corners.
Is the trailer licensed and roadworthy?
Yes.
Will the trailer be at least 100 feet from all lot lines?
Yes, it's 115 feet to the nearest corner.
Has there been a recent survey? Oh, I'm sorry, there's two of them here. Are you sure of the lot lines?
Yes. Yep. They're
Will
plainly
there-
visible.
Will there be running water?
Not right now, but there will be, hopefully in the middle to the end of summer.
What type of sanitary facilities are you planning on?
For the immediate future, or the immediate time, we have a container with the wheels where you just travel it in and out, and eventually we'll have a holding tank in the ground that'll be pumped out when it fills.
So there will be other buildings and structures planned then?
Yes, there is a
Coming.
garage on the land right now, 20 by 20 garage. And then, yeah, this would be prep year, and then next year would be the construction of a second home for us.
Know if there's other trailers in the area?
Not that I'm aware of, I'm not sure.
Is a new driveway needed?
No, the existing driveway is pretty wide.
Are you planning on making improvements to the existing driveway so emergency vehicles could access your campsite should it ever be needed, necessary?
The immediate driveway off the road actually is wide enough now for an emergency vehicle, but back where we need to put the camper to be far enough away from the neighboring lot lines, we'll have to widen that road out just a bit to get the camper to turn a corner, being backed in by a truck.
Is this property in forest management?
I don't believe so.
Do you have a uniform property address number,
Yes,
fire number?
I have the fire number, yes.
Have you talked to other town board or your neighbors about this placement?
The neighbor I did, and he has no problem with any kind of stuff like that.
Where's the trailer now?
Right now, it's in my driveway in Oshkosh at my home.
That's all the questions I have.
You could take a seat then. Any correspondence?
We have no correspondence and no one registered to speak on this application.
Ready for staff comments?
We have another conditional use permit. This one's a little different. It's the long-term storage of a travel trailer on vacant property. With the long-term storage of a travel trailer on vacant property, we do a lot of things. We make sure that the sanitary facilities are up to date. We're probably going to need to talk about what kind of septic systems are allowed. But we can talk about that for when you put the running water in. The transfer unit will probably work just fine until you're ready to do that. We do inspections of them and, make sure that they're licensed and roadworthy. I'm glad to hear that you are going to widen that driveway because we pulled in and then I said I'm not going to go any further because I'm going to get stuck. We have a pretty big bus, so that was one of the concerns of the committee. When the committee visited the property, they noted that the trailer will not be visible from the town road. They did note that the driveway should be improved to the minimum standards in the zoning code to allow for fire and rescue vehicle access should it ever be necessary. And that's pretty much it.
The applicant have any rebuttal to this? Okay, so. Okay, our next one is Minute Meals of Watoma, Wisconsin, Berlin Area School District landowner has made an application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-514 of the Washara County zoning code to establish a commercial kitchen and distribution center in an existing former school building in the RS 10 residential single family zone. The location is approximately 2.0 acre parcel of land being part of the southwest one quarter of the northeast one quarter, section 7, town of Poisippi, W2194 Liberty Street. The applicant here, want to come forward? Tell us a little bit about your venture.
I'm Katie Dean. Right now we're working out of the nursing home right in town here. We're looking to expand. We need more space. It's going to be a lot closer to our counties that we're delivering meals to. Going to the Oshkosh Appleton area right now. It's going to be a huge move for us. We can do a lot more counties. It's going to provide jobs for the area. I guess if you guys have any questions about what we do.
Okay, we have questions for you.
A bunch of them. Has there been a recent survey of the property?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know where the lot lines are on the property?
Yes.
Do you plan on purchasing the property or will you just rent the space that you need?
Purchasing.
Could you describe your business a little bit more in depth, in detail?
We provide meals right now for around 350 people a day. It goes towards like a Meals on Wheels program for elderly nursing homes. So we make the meals ourselves and we send them out to the Appleton, Oshkosh area.
How many employees do you hope to have when you're fully operational?
Right now it's around 15. Depending on how much we grow, how many counties we serve, it could go up to 40 to 60.
What sort of traffic in and out will there be? Please describe like the incoming and outgoing deliveries.
We'll have 2 semis making a week that'll come in to bring our food and supplies in like that. Monday through Friday we'll have 2 to 3 vans, just regular like minivans taking loads out to the delivery sites.
Is there enough parking area for turning around for all the delivery trucks? Is there enough parking for employees also? Is an advertising sign being planned?
It's in the process, yes.
You are planning one? Are you aware of the state building codes and other state requirements, and will they be met? Have you talked to the health department regarding health codes related to food production? This property is connected to a municipal sewer, and the operation will meet all the sanitary district's requirements. Is that correct? Are there any major updates to the building or equipment required? Are there any other additions or buildings being planned?
Not in the near future.
Will all activities be inside and no business or products, cartons, packages be stored outside? Are you planning on any new driveways to the property? The property has an existing address, is that correct? Fire sign and that? If an approval is granted, when would you plan on opening at this location for business?
The end of the month, May 1st, possibly.
Okay, that's all questions I have.
Take a seat then. Any correspondence?
Yes. We have a letter that was received on April 9th. It says, "We own the Grace Apartments located at W2238 Liberty Street in Poisippi. We feel that this business moving into Poisippi is a great thing for our community and do support this endeavor 100%. And that signed Vern Eliason, Eliason, from Grace Apartments. And then on April 12th, I received a phone call from Larry Albright, the town chairman, and he stated that on Monday, April 8th, the town board voted unanimously to support the application and business proposition for Minute Meals to locate in the Poisippi Elementary School. And that's it for correspondence.
No one in favor, objecting?
No one registered.
Staff comments?
And when the committee visited the property, they noted that there's plenty of parking and 2 driveways to facilitate traffic flow, and that any upgrades made would obviously need to meet all applicable codes, and it sounds like the applicant has already made those contacts and realized what needs to be done. So that's it for my comments.
Anything rebuttal at all? Okay. Our next one is tabled from the March 21st, 2013 public hearing. Joshua and Faith Kale of Waiwega have made an application for a conditional use in accordance with section 58-454 of the Lashire County zoning code to establish a horse sporting facility in the AG General Ag Zone. The location of approximate 15.0 acre parcel of land being part of the southwest 1/4 of the northeast 1/4, section 30, town of Bloomfield, and 5599 State Road 49. Is the applicant here? Just a little bit of who you are and a little bit about your project.
Our project is we're putting up a 38 by 45
Excuse me, your name?
Faith Kale, sorry. Pole shed barn. It's going to have 8 box stalls in, and that's the most horses I'll have on the property. Currently, I have 6 there. I don't know what else to say, really.
Okay, we have some questions for you.
Could you describe your proposed operation in some more detail?
Just horse boarding, like in Wisconsin, if the horse is not personally owned by me, it's considered horse boarding. My mother keeps her horse by me, so I want to stay as legal as possible so that she doesn't have to try and find a new home for her horse. I do some fostering for Beyond the Fence Line Equine Rescue, so I want to stay legal with that. And if a friend needs help, I'm not out to make a business. I'm not out to make money. I'm just out to help. You know, horses are expensive, and I'm lucky enough to live out in the country and have them in my backyard. And I've had a lot of friends that have had to sell their horses because they've moved and they can't afford $300 on board. And what I offer them is they cover their hay and they cover their grain and help me out every once in a while, and we're good to go. So.
Okay. Are there going to be any other employees outside the family in this operation? What is the maximum number of horses you plan to have on the property at any one time, including your own? 8. Is there an advertising sign planned?
No.
Will you do any training of horses?
No.
Will you have any riding classes or other group activities?
No.
Do you have a designated area for working with the horses, whether riding them or grooming them or other activities that take place during a normal day of caring for such animals?
I will, once the barn is done. They'll be able to groom in the barn, and we do plan on putting an outdoor arena up that will have sand and be safe for everybody to ride on.
How will it work when people come to your facility to visit and work with or ride the animals?
I guess I don't understand the question. Like, they'll be able to come in their horse, use their horse, ride their horse in the outdoor if they want to ride in the woods. I do have permission from brewers who are north of us to ride on their land. I ask them every year to make sure that it's okay. Usually I try to take the path back, and if I go down the roads, I stay on the roads and I kick my poop off the roads if that's a problem. And I'm traffic savvy. I wouldn't want anybody hurt, and I don't want my horses are too important for me to try something stupid with them. So.
Do you have an arena or trails?
Trails in the woods, and then we are putting up an arena. We were waiting for when we figured out where we're putting a barn up in order to put where we're putting the arena up. So
Where is the arena going to go?
it's actually going to go, when you drove in the driveway and you go down by the barn, it's going to be in where one of the paddocks are right now, because we're moving all of our paddocks up because they're just too wet right now. So we're going to move all the paddocks. They're not going to go any closer to the road, but they're going to, because I'm going to have stalls, I'm going to be able to make the paddocks a little smaller. And we're not going to have the lean-to up.
Everything will still be south of the home, though.
What sort of traffic is anticipated, and what sort of parking will you need, and what do you have there? Will it be adequate for parking?
I don't see the traffic getting any more because I'm not going to publicly advertise. It's going to be all by word of mouth. The horse trailer is parked right along our driveway right now. That's probably going to be the biggest thing going in and out of my driveway. And I'm pretty sure we have adequate parking right now, so.
So for horse trailers and vehicles of whatever sort, there will be adequate room, and there will be no need to be backing out onto the highway with any of that equipment?
No.
Where will all the feed and other supplies be stored?
We have the barn, well, a little shed up right now. That's my tack and feed room. We're contemplating keeping that my tack and feed room, so if a horse gets into the barn or out of their stall, they're not over-consuming grain or hay. But the hay will go in a loft and on the ground in the barn, and then the grain will be in the barn as well if we don't decide to keep that one small building.
Okay, have you had any communication with the county veterinary officer?
Sergeant Ganzel, I gave him a call. He never called me back.
Or the humane officer? No?
Yeah, that's Sergeant Ganzel.
Yeah.
I know of him through working with Beyond the Fence Line, so.
Okay.
And he has been out to my house.
Are you aware of all the standard veterinary requirements?
Absolutely. I used to work for Great Lakes Equine, so they probably get taken care of better than I do.
And will those be followed and incorporated into your fees, whatever needs there are for that service?
Yeah.
Are there any nearby homes?
Not really.
How far off?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I want to say Brewers are probably a good quarter of a mile north of us, and I don't really know the neighbors to the south of us, but we've never really had any run-ins and never had issues with each other, so.
Okay. So some distance at any rate,
Oh, yeah,
quarter of a mile. What sort of sanitary facilities are there going to be here for you or your visitors to use?
We'll use our house, and right now we currently have holding tanks. We're hoping to actually build a house in the next 5 years and put septics in. We've actually applied to get, well, not applied to the county to get a septic, but because of the mobile home, the loan is a high risk, so we can't get a loan for a septic quite yet.
Okay. How will the animal waste be stored and ultimately disposed of?
I know that's probably the biggest thing right now. We use a lot of it for composting. My husband has 5 older brothers and I have 3 older sisters, and they all have gardens. And I know that I'm going to be talking to the farmer that I used to work with, see if he can use it, because I don't like seeing it either.
Going to build up, right? Going to be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Are you aware there are wetlands on your property as well as an intermittent stream that is considered navigable?
I was aware. I'm not quite sure exactly where all the wetlands are, but we're learning all of that.
Okay. Well,
The biggest thing is our woods are wetlands, and I don't use that at all, really, right now.
Okay.
Unless it's really dry, and then I have grass.
Are you currently taking precautions to protect these areas? There's nothing going on that would be a problem in these areas that might be wetlands.
No, we're not. We don't even we keep everything natural back there. So.
Okay. Has there been a recent survey on this property?
I know when we bought the property in at the end of 2001, there was a survey, and I think when we refinanced our home, we had another survey, or at least a property analysis, something like that, and that was 2 years ago that we did that, so.
So it would be important to know where the lot lines are.
Yeah, and we're aware of those.
Okay.
They have little stakes out there for them.
And are you already boarding horses?
My mom's horse is there. I did at one time have a horse boarded, and then I found out that was against the law, so I did ask them to leave.
So just your mom's horse now? Okay. All right. That's it for questions.
Okay, you can take a seat. Any correspondence?
Yes. I received an email from Mark Stibbs, who happens to be the chairman of the Town of Bloomfield Board, and it's addressed to Amy or myself. The Town of Bloomfield Plan Commission met last night and went out to the site of Josh and Faith Kale's horse operation. After looking over the situation and talking with the Kales, the Plan Commission made a recommendation to approve their request for the conditional use application to establish a horse boarding facility. The Plan Commission in turn made that recommendation to the Town of Bloomfield Town Board to approve the request. The Town Board unanimously also approved. It appears that the new barn they are in the process of building will have room for 8 stalls, and that is all the Kales are hoping to have, including their own horses. The Town Board did express concerns over the general appearance of the site, but that didn't have any effect on the conditional use request itself. The Kales assured the Town Board that they were working on improving the site and will continue to do so. And we also received correspondence from the Land Conservation Department, along with some photographs. This was yesterday, and this is addressed to me. It says, John Olson and Josh Sackley conducted a site visit to the property of Josh and Faith Kale as a result of a complaint. At the time of our visit, no one was home. We walked the property. There were 6 horses in a feed lot. There were piles of manure outside of the lot stacked in the riparian area along the creek. There were also drain tiles installed to drain the feed lots and the runoff from the newly constructed building. There was direct runoff from the feed lot into the creek. The runoff from the feedlots and the stacked manure within the SWQMA, or Surface Water Quality Management Area, which is 300 feet within a navigable stream, we believe are violations of NR 151.08 subparagraph 3 and 4, manure management prohibitions. With best management practices and cost sharing available, we believe these issues could be corrected. If an approval is considered, recommendations by Land Conservation include compliance with NR 151 as soon as possible, but not to exceed 1 year from approval date. In calculating the amount of manure that could be land applied to the 4-acre hayfield on the west side of the parcel, it was estimated that the maximum amount of manure that could be applied is between 30 and 37 tons. A 1,000-pound horse produces approximately 9.25 tons of manure a year. Therefore, it is estimated that this field will support manure from 3 to 4 horses and still be in compliance with the NRCS 590 nutrient management standard outlined in NR 151.07. And then it says, see the photo documentation attached. That's it for correspondence.
Anyone speak in favor?
Yep. 2. I'll register in favor.
Register in favor. Mary Wetland, to register only in favor of the application but not speak. And register only in favor and not speak is Scott Lehman. The opposition or any other?
Nope, that's it.
Staff comments.
This time we're looking at another conditional use that has to do with horse boarding. This is something that is somewhat limited in the general agricultural zone. When the committee visited the property back in March, they noticed that the property drops off and gets lower as you move to the south and the west. This could limit the area the landowner has for boarding more horses in a safe and healthful manner. In addition, it could limit the area the landowner has to work with and exercise the animals, and for other things such as manure storage and disposal. Since that time, obviously, the Washera County Land Conservation technicians responded to an anonymous complaint about manure handling and stormwater runoff from the site, and they did visit the site yesterday and did note several violations of NR 151. After looking at the area, they determined that all of the problems could be addressed through accepted best management practices for such things as overland runoff management techniques and roof runoff controls from the new barn, restoration and maintenance of adequate stream bank buffers, proper manure storage methods and facilities, and implementation of basic nutrient management practices for the manure disposal. I would recommend that if the committee considers an approval, they would require the landowner to seek the advice and assistance of the Land Conservation Department to remedy these issues. They certainly aren't insurmountable, but they should be addressed. And that would require the applicant to prepare and follow a plan to protect the wetlands and the intermittent stream, and then implement all of those elements of that plan in a timely manner. Obviously, it would take some time, and there is cost sharing available. So that's it for my comments.
Applicant have anything they want to say in rebuttal?
I'm absolutely in favor of working with the land conservationists. I don't like my horses living in their poop right now either, so that's a big thing for me. And I know every 6 months we remove the manure, but our tractor broke down last fall, so we weren't able to. Once the barn is up, all of that will be addressed, and the barn hopefully will be done within the next month and a half.
And they probably did visit at one of the worst times of the year.
Yes, this is the worst time. 2 weeks of rain is horrible, so. Yeah.
So they've seen the worst. They'll be able to help you.
All right.
Well, you should do it whether you get an approval or not.
Oh, no, that's
but-
we're planning on it. We've been there for 8 years, and we both work, at one time we're working 3 jobs to pay the mortgage, so we're finally both in that relaxed mode where we can actually start taking care of home, so.
Our last one is text amendments and floodplain map adoption. So you can take it from there.
Oh, yeah, this is me. Well, I can explain the text amendment process and what the next steps are. I'm going to talk about the maps first because we're doing two things at once tonight. A couple years ago, DNR received some federal grant money to update floodplain maps for Wisconsin. And it was about 2 years ago that DNR started to review and update those maps. They did hold an open house in late 2011 for public comment regarding the maps that they developed. We had the paper maps available in the office, and we had a digitized version available online. Prior to the open house by DNR, our office sent a letter announcing the proposed maps and upcoming public review period to all municipal officials, lake organizations, surveyors, realtors, plumbers, soil testers, and builders working in Waushara County. And in addition, we put a press release in the paper. These notices all gave information on how interested parties could access and review the proposed maps. In addition to our local notices, DNR properly noticed the public meeting that they held in December of 2011, where all the maps were again available for review and DNR employees were available to answer questions. Finally, written comments were taken by DNR for 90 days following that public meeting. There was not much, if any, new information on flood elevations around the county. They basically took the old maps and digitized them and overlaid them on an aerial photo, making them slightly easier to use and understand for the general public and those businesses and companies that do the map determinations. Once the maps went through the public meeting and comment period, the final maps were developed, and that's what came to us at the county, and that's what's before the committee tonight. In addition, there are corresponding changes required to the floods code. On January 1st of 2012, NR 116, which is the state floods code, in order to fully comply with FEMA regulations, was updated to comply with those. And so because we're shortly after January 1st of 2012, we had to update our text amendments as well. The official maps and all studies must be noted in the code in order to be used for flood determination purposes. There is a new analysis that was approved and accepted by DNR and FEMA, and that's the Upper White River Lake Dam Failure Analysis. And that information is also being incorporated into this adoption process. The way I understand it, we really have to go through these text amendments and adopt the new maps in order to remain in compliance with the FEMA and state regulations and be eligible for the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP. The maps and corresponding code language has been reviewed by DNR and determined to be in compliance with all applicable requirements. And once they are approved at the county level, after this meeting, they will go to the full county board. Then we will forward them to DNR and FEMA for their final approval. The committee reviewed the final maps and the proposed amendments at their business meeting, and all comments, as well as those of legal counsel, were incorporated into the final draft. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
We do have one person that registered to speak. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have.
Correspondence thing?
We do have correspondence, too. So we received a letter on April 15th. It's addressed to Mark Kirschner and myself. It says, Dear Sir and Madam, according to the notice of public hearing listed in the April 3rd, 2013 issue of the Waushara Argus, you will be considering amendments to Chapter 18 of the Code of Waushara County dealing with the adoption of a revised floodplain map. After review of the proposed map for the area of Long Lake, Saxville, and Springwater, it was found the areas indicated as special flood hazard areas subject to inundation by the 1% annual chance flood gave no indication as to what was used for their determination. Considering the term 1% annual chance flood, 100-year flood, was used to determine the indicated areas shown on the map, one is left to wonder what level elevation was determined to be the 100-year flood elevation. Unfortunately, the map legend lists Zone A as no base flood elevation determined. Waushara County and the state of Wisconsin have historically used the term ordinary high water mark as the base for setbacks and permits. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any correlation between the terms 1% annual chance flood used in the proposed maps and the commonly used ordinary high water mark. Due to the fact that no specific elevations are listed or were used in determining Zone A, as indicated on the map of Long Lake, the Long Lake Association Board of Directors hereby requests that the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee not approve the proposed floodplain map until further clarification and documentation can be provided. If you should have any questions, please feel free to contact me. That's signed Gary Wisbrocker, President of the Long Lake Association. And then on April 16th, I received an email from Richard J. Cook of DNR. And it says, Terry, I've reviewed your latest draft of the proposed ordinance, and it meets the standards of both FEMA and the DNR. Once adopted, please send me the following material for review and approval: a copy of the proof of publication for the Class 2 notice of hearing on the ordinance, a certified copy of the adopted ordinance, a copy of the proof of publication of the Class 1 notice of adoption. And once I receive this information, I will review and approve if no changes have been made and send a copy of the approval to FEMA for their review. If you have any questions, please contact me, and that's from Dick Cook of DNR. And that's it for correspondence.
Okay, we have one registration slip for John Lobbs to speak in opposition to the application.
Good evening. I'm John Lobbs. I'm president of the Friends of Long Lake Association. On Long Lake, we have two associations. We are technically the money-raising aspect of it. Our main opposition to this is the way the maps were constructed. I know I talked to Terry on this issue. Apparently, they made their basis off of 1964 data. I have owned our property. I know Mark has been out there. Terry has been out there. If I'm interpreting this right, now the website is not working properly to get the maps, download the maps off of property. I did come down last week and Terry was kind enough to furnish me with copies. There is 3 plot maps in their section coming out for Long Lake. There used to be 2. This time around there's 3. If I am interpreting this correctly, the way this is coming out, probably 25 to 30 properties in our lake are going to be in the floodplain with their new interpretation of this. Okay, let me give you an example of just happens to be our particular place. We're showing here. This has been blown up a little bit, and our house is basically, from what we can tell, is in that area. If you look at the picture, now we've owned the property for 25 years, and there's a house on there for 12 years prior to that. As you can see by the photo, and Terry can attest, because we put in a stone retaining wall system back. That picture is 12 years old, right there from 1990, or that was taken on Christmas Eve of 1993, of that. And our lot line, I took my handy dandy GPS, and at lake level, we're showing approximately 600 and about 68 or 69 feet at present lake level. Our house lot is up probably 15 feet high, just under 15 feet higher than that. And that would be no way that I would be in the floodplain, but due to this, I did do a analysis. I did call if there is a letter that I can file with FEMA for a change of that. That would cost me $1,000 to file that, to get the survey out there and to fill out the form and approve it, which takes approximately 6 weeks, and they give you your determination. Now, if this was done, if I'm doing this and we have probably 20 other people having to do this, I just can't. It does provide a financial hardship for some of our people on the lake. I know, and it was said we never did receive. I don't know. The state apparently conducted the previous meeting, the hearing meeting, and our association, which we are also a member of the countywide Association of Lakes, we don't have any record of ever receiving that notice. And we just learned of this how I happened to learn about this prior to you posting the meeting. One of our properties just sold on the lake recently, and Terry's been involved with that one, and he had to spend approximately $1,000 to get his mortgage for under the federal flood program. If you have a mortgage and have to have flood insurance, you are required by the lender to have flood insurance if it's a government-backed loan. Now, fortunately, I don't have a mortgage on our property, but if I did have to, I'd have to spend under the old rates, and I'm an ex-insurance agent, I would have to spend approximately just under $1,000 a year to purchase flood insurance, being 15 feet up in the air of that. So that is we're not in opposition of that. We're in opposition of the methods to obtain this, and for everybody. I know you are put in, Terry and I have discussed it, you're put in a terrible position. In order to go into the program, you have to approve, and I think it's by June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken.
June 18th.
Somewhere in there, but the methods are, so I know that house is back looking on that one, it's blown off the scale, but I looked on her map, which is a 500-foot scale, and it's showing a half inch or 200 and some feet of that bay, or there used to be a frog pond at one time, but there has been houses in that area for 50 years. So it behooves me that they have never updated their scale. And you're not only going to create this on Long Lake, you're going to have this problem pop up throughout the country, throughout the county, on all 96. There's only 2 lakes, I believe, that have the established floodplain. I think it's Spring Lake and Pine Lake.
There's more than that. But
But I'm just saying this is not only going to be an issue for Long Lake. It's going to come. This is going to, if it's any indication of what's coming down the pike for that. So, thank you for your time.
Staff comments.
Well, I can't disagree with Mr. Lobbs. I did kind of give you my comments before, but there wasn't any money for studies. I always said this was going to be prettying up something that really shouldn't be prettied up, because they should spend their money on studies. They did not. It is up to the individual lakes or the property owners to do the studies. I can't change that. We don't have money to do a study on all of the lakes that need it to be done, and DNR and FEMA did not do that. These floodplain boundaries have not changed. They took the old information and superimposed it onto an aerial photo. So the line hasn't changed. It's just that it's a little easier to see where it is. And property owners are now going to realize why the companies in Texas are telling them they need to get flood insurance, because it looks like they are in the floodplain when they probably aren't. everyone's gonna have to spend the money or band together and spend the money and have the studies done and get the LOMAs out there. I can't change that. You know, it is the same information, it's just in a different format. So, and we do have to approve them. I see no other alternative. If we do not, other counties have talked about not approving them, you're kicked out of the program right away. So then if there is a flood and someone has flood insurance, they aren't eligible for that anymore. So, you know, that's the position we're in, and we do have to, I think you have to approve them, because you have to, or we're not in the flood insurance program anymore, and the consequences of that are worse.
So this directive to make this improvement or to pass this, what we're dealing with here, that comes from the federal government?
Right, but DNR prepared the maps, and DNR has the state code that governs our flood code on construction, but it is in compliance with all the FEMA standards. It's,
And you just spoke, but I didn't get it. What did you say about the result of not passing this proposal?
it means our county would no longer be eligible for flood insurance. So any of those properties that are in the floodplain that have flood insurance would be out of the program.
And that flood insurance is provided by the federal government? People can buy flood insurance on their own, can they not?
No, they have to purchase it from the federal
They
government.
do. I could write up a policy. Well, no, I guess.
And the rates are going up rapidly. I do know that too, because of all the floods that have been going on. Yeah, I mean, it's, and I did send a letter out to all the lake associations. I mean, I can show you that letter, at least warning that this was coming and the time to comment was coming. But
So a study could be instituted by the lake?
the Lake Management District would, I've always thought that would be a really good idea, because you're spreading that cost out amongst all the property owners, rather than, in the case of Spring Lake, one property owner did the study at a very high cost, much higher than what Mr. Lobbs mentioned. Yeah. And then the rest of the lake benefits from it because they determine what that elevation is. And then it becomes much easier to file your LOMA because you know the elevation, you shoot it, you're done.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, we'll close our portion of this. If we go to the room outside the door to the right there, we'll have our business meeting. Got all the answers now? Got all the answers?
Sorry, Joe.
Jesus Christ, how handy is that?
Joe's leaving you extra reading material.
Ready? What's that? Close enough? I'll call this meeting, Washera County Board of Adjustments to order.
This meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Please remember to keep your comments brief and relative to the matter at hand. The same time limits will apply to testimony, which is 5 minutes for the applicant, outside of the committee questions, and 3 minutes for other testimony, including any rebuttal by the applicant. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct their monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information on appeals is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. I introduce the rest of the committee. To my left are Larry Tim, John Benz, Mark Schumacher, George Wilson. My name is Roger Wagner. First variance to be considered tonight, SBA Towers 3 LLC, Baton Rouge, Florida. Scott Taylor, landowner, has made an application for variance in accordance with section 58-236, paragraph B, paragraph 20, and paragraph E, the Waushara County Zoning Code, to place a 250-foot self-supporting wireless communication tower coming to within 130 feet of the right-of-way of State Highway 22, 187.5-foot setback required in the MG General Manufacturing Zone. Location: a parcel of land being the south 17 acres of the east one half of the southeast one quarter, the southwest one quarter, section 36, Towner Rose, N 4935, State Road 22. Is the applicant present?
Ronald Zeckel.
Spell your last name, please.
Zechel.
Can't hear you.
Zech. Yeah, Z is in zebra.
Okay.
Echel. Oh. Zechel.
Your first name?
Ron.
Go ahead.
And I'm the agent for Scott Taylor and for the SBA. We're requesting this variance. Obviously, you've seen the property, you've been out there. We've got a pit-like situation with the commercial property, slopes on all sides, and we work with a landowner to push it it's pushed as far back as it is in that corner, and obviously the grade goes up on all three sides. So the hardship there is obviously you can't move it to the west because you'd have to take down the whole hill, and you'd be defeating the purpose. Obviously, we looked at this. We do minimal setbacks in a lot of different areas. We design our towers for 50% anyway, standard fall down, so it's 50%. So this is well within that variance level, and we do provide that to the county as stamp plans. So that hardship there is there, and of course the unique property conditions. You have a very unique situation with the terrain here. So we're going within a very limited area to work with on this property, and of course we're allowing him he's going to be expanding or presenting to the county some expansion plans, and we're going to allow him to grow at the same time we're going to stay away from his growth. So that's a good issue. And then of course the public or protection of public interest is very standard to what we do. Will not interfere or impact current existing use of the property. Will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare of the community, and will not require any changes to existing topography or drainage. That's a pretty standard situation, so we're asking you to approve this variance so we could work within this compound. Obviously, it has some benefits to everybody working within a situation like this.
Okay, just some general questions then for the record. Has there been a recent survey out there?
Yes.
You're sure of all the lines?
Yes.
Have you talked to the neighboring landowners?
The landowner has, yes.
Okay. Have you talked with the state DOT?
No, because there's existing access.
Okay. Finished height of the tower is going to be 250 feet?
Yep, top of steel.
Any other improvements planned other than the small building?
Nope, just the 100 by 100 foot fenced-in compound, yes, in the small building.
And can you explain which setbacks will not be met?
Just the front, or the east setback of the required 75% for the tower setback.
And you've told us that you've explored all the other options for relocating in a different spot?
Yes.
Self-supporting tower?
Yes, three-legged.
Do you know the design specifications? Can you tell us how the tower should fall if there was a catastrophe failure?
Yes. These towers obviously are designed for, they come in and do soil conditions, and they will design the footings accordingly, and then they stamp it off, and then they design the tower accordingly. In this particular case, this tower will be stamped to fall under maximum stress or tornado or whatever, a disaster, at 50% fall down. So that would be 125 feet.
Are there any structures located within 75% of the height of the tower?
No.
You're familiar with all the permits you're going to need for putting this up?
Yes.
And you said earlier if an approval were granted, you'd be looking at summer construction?
Yes.
Any other committee questions?
I've got two questions. The gentleman who was, the gray-haired gentleman who was here with you, he was not the owner. He's the long-term leaseor?
Yeah, what it is Scott Taylor owns the property.
Right.
And Front Porch Pest, David,
right,
has a lease option to buy.
On the business.
And the business and the property. So he's going to be purchasing, they're in the process of transition. He's been adding financial.
I just want to make it clear for the record that you've been dealing with the landowner, not just the leaseor.
No, that's correct. We have two lawyers involved. Scott Taylor is the landowner, yeah.
Yep.
I've been dealing with him, and he's the one who signs the lease.
Yep. But yet, the other point I wanted to make, it seems to me that one of the strongest points for granting this variance is because of the business, or because of the potential expansion of the business, were you to put the tower in a location that would meet the setbacks, it might infringe on the expansion of the commercial business. He talked about greenhouses.
That's correct. And you put it out in the open, obviously you've got some issues with visual, and then you got issues with him running into future expansion also. So
those are the only 2 points I wanted to make.
Okay, you can have a chair then.
Sure.
Correspondence?
Yes, we received one letter on April 15th, to whom it may concern. I'm responding to the public hearing notice that I received in regard to the conditional use variance hearing for SBA Towers, LLC, Scott Taylor, landowner. I would like it to go on record that I, as an adjacent landowner, have no objection to this request based on the information facts stated in the notice. I do request that if there are changes in the information initially released to me, that I be notified, and that's signed respectfully, Terrence R. Barkalow.
No one registered to speak in favor or objecting. Staff comments?
Go ahead. His first name, Barco?
Terrence, T-E-R-R-E-N-C-E.
The other two letters from Reby and Milky were...
They weren't
they didn't
pertinent
mention
to the variance,
just the conditional.
just the placement of the tower. So you lead into my next explanation of we are no longer looking at whether the tower should be placed here, but now it's merely a question for this committee to see where it should be placed on the property, and should it not meet one of the setbacks in our code. The burden of proof of qualifying for a variance does rely or rest firmly on the applicant. There would have to be an unnecessary hardship would be caused by the code requirement. There are unique limitations on the property that prevent the landowner or the applicant from meeting the required dimensional setbacks, And they also have to demonstrate that if the variance is granted, no harm will be done to the public interest or the zoning code. The other thing about unnecessary hardship is that it's now termed unreasonably burdensome or something like that. So that if the code requirements are unreasonably burdensome to try to locate it in a position that it meets the setbacks, then the board can consider an approval too. The personal situation of the applicant, financial hardship, or nearby violations cannot be considered as valid reasons to grant a variance. When the board visited the property, they noted that there were no other nonconforming structures. A new driveway was not necessary, nor was it being proposed. The proposed tower is going into an old non-metallic mining site with steep slopes, and that also had very good existing vegetation. If the tower were to be located in that area and meet all setbacks, the altering of the terrain would be extensive and could be considered unnecessarily burdensome to the property owner. And again, focus on, we're not looking at whether the tower should be placed there at all. They're going to be discussing that in the other room. But this is where the tower should be located, and should it have to meet all the setbacks on the lot. That's it for my comments.
Anything in rebuttal? If not, well, you can go into the other meeting, and they're probably voting on it shortly then. Next variance to be considered, George and Pamela Meischer, Reeseville, Wisconsin. Mark's Life landowner had made an application for variance in accordance with section 58-826, paragraph E, the Washare County zoning code to construct a 30 by 50 commercial mini storage building and a 30 by 40 pole building for personal storage within the visual clearance setback of County Road B in Cumberland Court. 200-foot visual clearance required in the CG General Commercial Zone. Location, a parcel of land being lots 7 and 8, block 1 of the Village of Richford plat, being part of the northeast one quarter, the the northwest one quarter, section 21, Town of Richford, N 1229, County Road B. The applicant present? Would you state your name for the record, please? You know who you were.
Yeah, I know.
You want to briefly tell us what you got planned and then why you need the variance out there?
Okay, Monday when we met with you on the thing, they got that 200-foot visual on the corner. The bad thing about this whole property is there's surrounded by 3 streets, you know, and with the variances and the visuals, you can't do nothing with it, so that's why we're applying for.
Just for the 30, well, we've got new blueprints because of the fact what we were told from Mark was totally wrong. After we met the neighbor Joyce, because we only adjoined to Joyce's land, and everything else that we have to go by is by the middle of the road for our property. We are in the process of buying all 4 property units of what Mark had.
All 4 lots.
All 4 lots, yeah. So we are looking at just trying to utilize as much as possible in order to get our storage units brought up here. And we are in the business ourselves with storage units where we live in Reeseville.
Okay.
You guys want to see the new one instead of the old one?
I think we got something.
We had the new site plan that you had faxed over on Friday.
Yes, okay, good. That is
I think
what
there was just no paper in the fax machine. I hate to tell you that, but once they put paper in it, there it was. So everybody's got a copy.
We brought up extra.
We've got them here.
Okay.
Just in case, so.
Okay, then just a few questions for the record. Has there been a recent survey, or are you sure of the lot lines and locations?
The neighbor, Joyce, said that in '96, I believe, it was resurveyed, and she showed us where all the stakes were when we talked to her.
She's got a tin can over where the metal stakes are in the ground. So she has showed us those.
And have you talked to the town and county highway department about this issue?
The town we have, the county now.
Okay. Will you be paving your lot, or how will you deal with stormwater runoff?
It'll be gravel right now. gonna pave it down the road, like, I don't know if you've had them pictures
Yeah,
or
we
seen
showed
it.
you the pictures that we have.
It'll
of
look
ours.
just like it is back home, everything be paved, you know, but it ain't gonna happen right away, you know, it's,
What type of foundation will these buildings be on?
it'd be on a floating slab. They're 16 inches deep, 16 wide, tapered up to 4 inches, and I believe it's 24 inches across, but before it can come up to 4 inches, you know. But it's a floating slab.
Will,
They changed them from our first 3 buildings. Our last building that we put up 2 years ago, they changed it a little bit, so,
We go according to their state ordinance.
you know, and when we ordered a building, they give us all the specs for the blueprints, you know, for the concrete, everything, so.
okay. Will you be doing any extensive filling or grading out there?
I haven't shot it yet with the laser, but the way it looks, it's gonna be have to raised up to the north, you know, because it kinda drops off and I don't wanna flood out the neighbors, you know. I'm gonna try to run the water back south.
Okay. That would be one of our concerns, that you're not gonna dump
Right, no.
all of your
Well,
water
besides
from
that,
hard
there-
service onto a neighbor.
I think we're like 11, it says 10 feet, but we're like 11 feet off the lot line. We measured it out Monday when we were up there. But I'm still gonna try to run the majority of it. And at home, what we did, I run most of the water to the south, but on that last building, we'd run like 20 feet to the north, you know. So if there is any going to the north, it'll only be like 20 feet, you know. But you don't really have a water problem until you blacktop them, because it
Right.
soaks away.
What will the finished height of the buildings be?
I believe they're like 9 foot, a little over 9 foot. I'm gonna say 9.5 feet, you know.
And all of their setbacks will be met except the visual? You'll be able to keep the proposed buildings in the commercially zoned property and meet the 7.5-foot setback then?
Right.
Okay. What about the septic system, and what plans do you have?
Okay, the drain field right now runs to the west. I believe that's to the west towards the church. I wanna eliminate the drain field because we're gonna be putting the buildings right across the drain field. So I figure them 2 tanks, I'm gonna leave them in there, tie them together and make a holding tank. You know, because we ain't gonna be living up here, and all it is when we come up to work on stuff or whatever, so I figured I think they're 1,200 gallon tanks. So I figure that'd be more than enough for, you know, enough store or holding tank, you know, for.
Are you gonna have to travel over those?
Nope. No, because the way the storage shed is set
Our personal building.
and the first warehouse, they'd be right in between them.
It did kinda look to me like you were probably gonna be driving over those to get into those.
Well, no, because I got
Units.
guardrail. I got access to guardrail and that stuff.
And-
You know, I'm gonna put up a fenced off area so you can't back into them or drive on them.
Has anyone looked at them to see if they could be converted for that use?
No, not yet.
Will there be enough room for parking and maneuvering around the buildings to access each unit?
There'd be plenty of room because they can park along the building, you know. And then we got the whole front corner here, you can park, and along, what is that, Cumberland Court?
Plenty of room, so nobody's gonna be backing out onto the road? Okay. Any other improvements planned at this time?
Not right now. I know we're gonna be back getting this other 2 lots rezoned, you know, for in the future, but I wanna get these here started and see how things go.
The proposed building on the northeast corner of the lot, that is going to be used for your personal stuff, pretty much?
Right.
How far into the visual clearance will you actually come with the buildings?
I don't believe the warehouse itself will be in it. It's just the personal building will be in it.
And we're thinking probably not quite half.
Okay. Do you have any landscaping or signs planned for the corner that might impede the vision further?
The sign to be mounted on the first building, right on the building itself, so there's no post, no nothing.
No outside storage then of anything? And the unique hardships and unique property limitations are, it's just a small, with the three roads coming together, you're pretty well locked in.
That visual, the property is useless with the, the way it is, it's not deep enough for nothing, or.
Are you aware that the county has a code requirement that prohibits us from issuing any land use permits until such time as all taxes due are paid to the property?
Yes,
Yes.
we are. We were told those property
Supposed to been
taxes.
taken care of, but.
I looked today and they still weren't.
Oh, that's okay,
paid.
because then closing, I'll pay the taxes and it's coming off the principal, so.
We're gonna be approaching that very shortly. Oh, yeah.
It sounds like you're aware of all the permits you're gonna need, and if an approval were granted, when are you looking at construction?
This year yet, or it's gonna be probably a couple months, as soon as everything gets.
Summer months, in other words.
Right.
Okay. Any other committee questions?
I've got two more questions. When you talked about the blacktop and the gravel, it brought up a couple things I wanted to ask you about. You have a commercial storage business down in Reeseville now with similar structures. Have you gone through the commercial building process lately in the last few years at all, or are
We
those
put up
older?
our last building, it would be 3 years this summer, our last building. And we blacktopped it 2 years ago, this last summer.
Because some commercial buildings require a commercial stormwater runoff, and is that something that you, okay,
We know of it, but like at home, everything is going
Yeah.
downhill and it goes out into a big.
because I think you're exactly right. Right now, when you gravel it, okay, it's probably not gonna be an issue.
Right.
But if, let's say you rezone the west half, and then put up buildings and then blacktop it, then all of a sudden, there might be some,
There's kind of an issue too, because there's no curb and gutter, so you can't, where are you gonna run it? That's why I said it probably won't be blacktop and, maybe for years down the road.
do you think like land conservation could help them with stormwater? Because you might wanna kinda plan what you're gonna do with the stormwater now before you get investing a lot of money in it, okay? And then, you have, I'm assuming when you rent these things, you have certain restrictions that you put on the people, like they
There's a
can't.
contract, the size of this paper.
Yeah.
And it's got all the do's and don'ts, and you better.
Do you allow ongoing rummage sales in any of your units now?
We do a little bit, but I have a guy that comes up and say if somebody doesn't pay after 3 months, there's a guy that comes and buys them right from us, and, but they have like these,
Flea markets? No.
them there,
You,
or else.
you don't allow the flea markets?
We do at home,
We
but it's
have
only
a-
once a year, because
It's a
they got the
citywide.
citywide garage sale.
Oh, okay.
And I open it up then. But if we get stuck with a bay, where they don't pay, there is a guy in town that buys them.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. My question is, you,
Oh,
exactly.
No. Now if the renter, whoever's renting, if they wanna have it, well, we don't say nothing about it, but it ain't gonna be that they're gonna have it every weekend. you know,
have 80
and if I
units.
got, I'll change it in the contract, so, you know.
I haven't, you know, I just, it was a curiosity question. That's all it was.
We're not gonna use it just for a week, flea market, that
Yeah.
can come and rent it for the weekend. This is, we're looking, anything is long-term, considering anything after 3 months.
And I know Monday night we were asked, because we went up to the town board meeting Monday night, or Tuesday night, I mean, and they asked if we were still gonna allow the snowmobile and ATV trail to go across property. I said definitely, because we ATV and the boys are snowmobiles, so.
Okay.
You know, we belong to the clubs down by us, and I'm gonna join them up here.
So I'm thinking there might be something with the stormwater that you might get some pre-planning so you can kind of figure out where you want to put the storm. They have underground things that you can put in. So, you know, you can maybe design your stormwater in those areas within the setback that you can't build in anyway. You know what I mean? So just something to think about. That's all I had.
And I had one more question about the personal storage building. It's just personal storage, workshop, and a bathroom for when you're there?
Right.
It's not a cabin, or you're not, okay, you said you stay down the street, okay.
Okay. Any other committee questions? Okay, thank you.
You.
Correspondence?
No correspondence, but we do have people registered.
Registered to speak and registered in favor but not speak. Jeffrey Meisher. Register only in favor but not speak. Cassandra Gold. Registered only in favor but not speak. Michael Meisher. And appear and speak for information only, Stephen Riley.
Good evening. My family owns property southwest, probably about 100 yards from where they're planning on building the commercial units. It's the old parsonage for the church. The owners are not able to make it because of flooding down there. They had to stay down south, so I'm up here to speak on behalf of them, and they have some questions and concerns relating to this. One is lighting, fences, security. Is there going to be any type of that? Is there going to be 24-hour people there? The lighting, what type of lighting is it going to be? Is it going to be bright lighting that's going to affect neighbors or I? In our time up there on the weekends, we're not really looking. It's a small community, so when we think of a commercial storage unit, we're thinking, you know, plus a personal one. You know, we think it's kind of hindrance to the community. It's not someplace that we really want a commercial unit to go in. So we'd like to know about if there's going to be a fence around the unit. We'd like to know what kind of security is going to be provided for the unit. We'd like to know what kind of lighting is going to be there, if there is going to be any lighting. And then, like I said, they feel that in the interest of the public at large, that it's a small community, and that we feel that these units are going to change the appearance of our village, and we're not happy with that, but we can't make decisions based upon your guys' decisions. That's what we feel, and that's our concerns, so thank you.
Okay. Staff comments?
For the record, the board has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all their other pertinent data for this and all the other applications that will be considered tonight. And they also visited all the properties and viewed the proposals and their location on site. I'm going to explain a little bit about variances again. Variances ask for a relaxation of a dimensional standard in the code. The decision to grant that variance must be backed by substantive reasons, which include an unnecessary hardship or it's unnecessarily burdensome to meet the code requirement. There are unique limitations on the property that prevent the owner from meeting the required dimensional standards. And if the variance is granted, no harm will be done to the public interest or the zoning code. It's the applicant's responsibility to present the case and provide the burden of proof as to why the variance should be granted. The personal situation of the applicant, financial hardship, or nearby violations cannot be considered as reasons to grant a variance. I feel the need to say again, this is not about whether this use should take place on this property. This is a permitted use in the zone that the property is already in. The applicant can certainly address the neighbor's questions, but this board does not look at whether that should be there or not. They only look at its positioning on the lot. So it's already been determined because of the previous zoning of the property that this use is a permitted use on that property. So they don't really have anything to do with that. It's where these buildings are located and whether they meet all of the required setbacks. When the board visited the property, they noted the property is currently vacant except for a septic system that runs along the north side of the property. The applicant proposes a single driveway off Cumberland Court and will not have any accesses on County Road B. Back taxes may be an issue for obtaining permits, and a survey does seem to be necessary out there unless the stakes can be located. So that's it for my comments.
Okay, the applicant have anything in rebuttal? Why don't you come up here and
Get a microphone.
And for the lighting, there will be lights on the building. And we are gonna put.
go ahead, but you have to address us.
We are gonna put cameras up there, you know, because, well, we're 75 miles away. They can't, you know, watch it like we do at home, you know.
Mhm.
At home, I'm only a mile from them, and so, but there will be lighting. There'll be like 2 lights on one side, or each side, and then one on the end. The other end, it'll be to the north. That'll be a solid wall, and there's no need to put lights, you know, around that.
What about fencing? He mentioned fencing.
No fencing.
And will your lights be somewhat shielded so they shine on the ground?
They'll
where
be fastened right on the thing, and it's like a low sodium light. You know, it's a yellow light. It's not a great big old.
Bright light. And on the buildings, you have the lights on one side of the building that shines to the other, so we're not shining.
For the first building's gonna have to have 2 lights on.
Because that goes for the front and the back. And then towards Cumberland Court, there will be 1 light on each one that shines forward. So when you come driving in, everything on the back side will not have a light. They cannot turn around behind them.
They're not gonna project out, then they're gonna project down more than,
Actually, about the furthest they go out is like 30 feet, you know, because we got them at home like that. And it's just so you can see, to get the key in the lock.
Sure.
You know, and at home, we do have 24-hour access, but you never see anybody down there at 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Every time we come through town, we always drive through to make sure there's no kids, you know, or
But with-
anybody down there, so.
When we are having cameras on here, so we are able to watch it at home.
Right.
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Next variance to be considered, Jeffrey and Eileen Dewar, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-235, paragraph A, paragraph 5, and paragraph B of the Washera County zoning code to construct a 8 by 26 single-story addition on a slab and a 18 by 16 foot attached garage onto an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling, 6 by 14 foot portion of existing family dwelling and existing detached shed to be removed, exceeding 25% of the footprint of a non-conforming dwelling, non-conforming due to side lot setback in the RS-20 zone, residential single-family within the shoreline area. Location, a parcel of land being Lot 14 of Sand Beach Plat, being part of the southwest 1/4 or the northeast 1/4, Section 7, Town of Marion, Silver Lake, N 1986, State Road 73. The applicant present. Would you come forward, please? State your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Durr.
Okay.
My wife Eileen is in the audience here. To my right is Jed Wise. That is part of the remodeling construction. So if there are questions from the panel that I'm not aware of yet, Jed should be able to handle those.
Okay. Want to briefly tell us what brought you to this point and what you want to do here?
We're the third generation that have had that property. And in the 40s, when grandfather had it, it was simply a Memorial Day to Labor Day. They would rent it from the Booth family. And eventually, Grandpa purchased it. Dad and him remodeled it. It still was a summer Memorial Day to Labor Day type scenario. We've had it the last 28 years, and we would like to make it a little more user-friendly for my wife and I. And the biggest setback is there is not a full bath in the house. There is just a powder room. Where the lot, the lot is a 50-foot lot. It's not a large property. It's about an 850 or so square foot house. We're proposing about 200 feet of additional living space to include a bathroom with a full bath. We need a utility room for hot water tank and those kinds of things, and a washer and dryer in another portion. So the addition runs the width of the house. So that's where you come up with the 26 feet, and we're just bumping it towards State Road 73, the 8 feet. So the bathroom is 8 by 8, and so on.
Okay. Just a few general questions then for the record. Has there been a recent survey, and are you sure of the lot lines?
We had it surveyed when we took ownership in '85, and we do know where the stakes are.
Okay. And the structure is considered non-conforming due to the lot width and...
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that your request exceeds what is permitted to similar non-conforming structures under the zoning code?
Yes.
And your addition will meet all other setbacks and go no closer to the side lot line than the existing structure?
That is correct.
No closer to the lake?
That's right.
How do you plan on dealing with stormwater runoff and potential erosion?
The way our lot is, from where the addition starts, it runs towards the highway. So if you're concerned about it running towards the lake, it's not going to go that way. It's going towards the road.
Okay. And what type of foundation will this be placed on?
It'll be placed on some kind of a slab.
Yeah, we're going to actually use a slab and a grade beam to match what the existing house has. And the reason for that, if I were to use a frost wall on this addition, I would have to do shallow frost protection around the entire house, which would mean digging up a 2-foot by 2-foot trench around the entire property, creating needed soil I can't say that word. Disturbance. Yeah, disturbance. And what we're planning on doing, we're going to remove some concrete that is there with this existing garage, and we're going to do minimal soil disturbing to the property. So we're trying to keep this, as friendly to the lake and to the neighbors as possible.
No extensive filling or grading, or you're not going to divert water onto the neighbors, or?
Correct, because the way it sits now, we might have to do a little bit of filling after we take out some concrete, but other than that,
Not going to raise it up?
no big digging, no big basements, nothing like that.
Okay. Finished height is going to match the roof of the existing home?
It'll be a little less than that.
A little bit less? Okay. Any other improvements planned at this time?
The addition includes the attached garage, and then of course we're having, since the addition is taking up most of the roof, a whole new roof is being put on along with siding and windows.
Sure. So it's all going to blend together?
Oh yes, it'll look nice.
Talk to your neighbors about the project?
Our neighbors to, I would guess it's the right, I'm sorry, not the right, the north, which is the Howard Schluter property. and we've been friends with that family since, his parents built it in '38, so we talked to Howie. They haven't used the house, but he did send a note down here saying that he was in favor of moving ahead.
You will be connected to municipal sewer, and you're not going to interfere with the...
Yep, we're on the sewer system, yep.
Which way are the garage doors going to face?
It's just a single car. It's an 18 by 16, and the garage door will face south. South.
You going to have enough room to turn around without backing out onto the road?
We use the garage more for rowboats, yard equipment, not necessarily as a garage to put a car in. So we have a driveway there that we just pull off of the highway and park on the driveway.
Okay. I guess you've gone over the hardships and the unique property limitations. You're just kind of updating and making it more user-friendly, right?
That's absolutely right.
Any other non-conforming structures on the property? Are you planning on removing any of these?
We're taking down the non-conforming shed right now, which is about 2 feet off the lot line, and we're moving the garage onto the lot. So I think that becomes conforming in terms of that setback, but it still is all within the width of the house, current house, and nothing will be beyond what the 26 feet of the width of the house is now.
Okay. Have you thought about revegetating the shoreline?
No.
Any plans on the lakeside front of the home, or?
Other than siding.
Okay. And what about the small lakeside patio?
It won't be disturbed, if that's what you're asking for.
It's non-conforming, that's why he's asking.
It's something that wasn't noted at the on-site, and I noticed it when I was out there, and
On the lakeside.
yeah,
Yes.
around the steps.
I guess we were under the impression, because we had looked at a few options of trying to raise the house and put a basement in, and when Amy was out at that time, we knew that slab would go with a basement, and that we were told we could not replace it at that point. And we just thought, since we're not disturbing that, that would be okay. And that was a presumption, perhaps, but that's how we...
And I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication there, because it wasn't noted on the on-site, and I didn't see it until we were actually out there.
Okay.
And so when I asked her about it, she says, yeah, I should have mentioned it, but I didn't. I forgot, because I thought it was going to be removed when we, you had talked about so many other things that I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So that is probably something that the board will have to address.
Okay.
And if an approval were granted, when would you start this construction?
I suppose in May sometime.
Mark, you got 2 questions?
No, I don't. I have a limit of 4 per year.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay.
Correspondence?
I should probably note one other thing that was noticed after we were out there, was initially it had been discussed about working on the detached garage. So Amy did a average for a detached structure, which we do slightly differently than we do attached garages. And while they meet the setback for a detached garage, the average setback, this proposed construction will not meet the setback for an attached garage. It actually goes 4 feet closer than what an attached garage average would be. Once I realized that, I got a hold of DOT, and they discussed it, and they actually discussed it with the engineer in charge of that project for reconstruction, and they sent me an email that said, this morning, said, Terry, after reviewing this further with our project development staff and maintenance staff, we do not have any concerns with this. And by that, I'm pretty sure that means the construction as it was proposed, because that's the site plan that we sent. And she says, thanks for checking with us, and that's signed Kelly Nicholas. So I wanted to explain that letter before I read it, or you're going to go, what the heck are you talking about? We also received a letter from Michael Wenholtz of DNR addressed to me. I am writing to provide comments regarding the Durr and Volden property variance requests that are to be heard before the Waushara County Board of Adjustments on Thursday, April 18th. Thank you for your time and assistance in discussing these requests and providing me with application materials. I am providing these comments in place of making an appearance in person. Please have them delivered to and/or read before the BOA. The department has no comment regarding either of these requests. Please note that these comments are in regard to shoreline zoning only and do not reflect applicable erosion control, waterway permitting, or other department regulations. Thanks for the opportunity to provide comments regarding the Durr and Volden property variance requests. Please contact me if you have any questions regarding this email. And then again, that's signed Michael Wenholtz, Department of Natural Resources. Then this afternoon, we did receive a letter.
Could you back up a minute? That first email was from who?
Kelly Nicholas from DOT. So this afternoon, we received a letter from William McNellis of N 1994 State Road 73, and it's not addressed to anybody. It says, there was a time when Waushara stood for fun and doing the right things. We stood up and together for what was right, and we did not scare so easy. Wautoma was inspired by great leaders in our community, Netzler, Poole, Wickerman, all people that achieved great things for the community and for the people that lived here. Many of those people are gone now. Gone also is Speed Queen and Camp Waushara, the railroad, and I can't help noticing that the new Super Walmart stands in Berlin and not Wautoma. Your old boy leader built on wetland and filled in a pond while zoning puckered up in approval. Citizens are denied the right to vote and held in duress to pay the dues to the gang they don't want to belong to or lose one's house and property. The practice of unjust enrichment continues, as does the dumping of pesticides in our lake and trespassing at will on private land by the gang's agents. And so it is that it is my obligation to do the right thing, certainly not by like or hate or restitution or by harm received, but to do as an American of the United States should do and do with justice. The low and immoral standard eroded to and zoning approved on Chicago Point. Wetland and pond filled in inches from the water, let alone the high water mark, a few feet from the road. Mr. Durr's proposal comes nowhere near as objectionable as that on Chicago Point Road. With that in mind, approval should be forthcoming and swift. Another consideration is what the board allowed, the building right next to them. They, the Durrs, have been deprived of their view of the trees and road once your board approved the building of the Blue Barracks. In lament of what the people of the board have done to them, you should not only approve, but get paintbrushes and hammers and saws to help build to apologize. I do not plan to go to the meeting, but do expect my approval note to be read just as Kissinger's was read against me in 2005. He was a coward to not show up on that April day and to be cross-examined. I frankly am sick of the sight of you and to those of you that have made sport of my American property owner rights. And again, that's signed, sincerely, William A. McNellis. Then on April 3rd, we received a letter from James Phillips. It's regarding remodeling work at N 1986 State Highway 73. It's addressed to Amy. I have discussed with Jeffrey and Eileen Durr the remodeling work they are proposing for their cottage at N 1986 State Highway 73. I have a cottage 2 lots to the west of their cottage. I am submitting this letter to you to let you know that I am in full support of their plans and have no objections. If you wish to discuss this with me further, feel free to call me at the number set forth above. And again, that's signed sincerely, very truly yours, James Phillips.
Jamie, it is?
James. James Phillips with 2 L's. And then on April 3rd, we also received a letter from Howard Schluter, to whom it may concern. I own the property located at N 1988 State Road 73, next to the Jeffrey and Eileen Durr property. After reviewing the proposed reconstruction of the Durr cottage, I do not have any objections to the planned addition. If you have any questions, please contact me. And again, that's signed Howard Schluter. And last but not least, we have one more letter addressed to Amy received on March 20th. To whom it may concern, we we understand that Jeff and Eileen Durr are submitting an application for a variance to be able to make changes at their cottage at N 1986 State Road 73. As property owners on Silver Lake, please accept our letter supporting their project. Jeff and Eileen have been property owners on Silver Lake for well over 20 years, and the property has been in their family for many more years. The Durrs have always taken pride in their cottage and the surrounding area. If they are able to complete their remodeling project, the improvements made will bring added value to their residents as well as the neighboring area. We would appreciate your positive consideration for Jeff and Eileen Durr's request for a variance to complete their project. And that's signed sincerely, Greg and Laura Lester.
Lester?
Lester, yep. And that's it for correspondence.
No one registered staff comments?
Once again, the board has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this application. They visited the property, and they've also been furnished with some additional information that surfaced after we were out there. When the board visited the property, they noted that there are seawalls and other retaining walls along the water's edge, but that they were very stable at the current time, and disturbing them could cause more harm than good. They also noted that the homeowner noted they were planning on installing a new well and relocating the sewer lateral as part of the total project. At the time of the on-sites, I did notice those two things that I've talked about before, and I do think that they need to be addressed. First, the patio area around the front steps does not meet code requirement and actually renders this home as a non-conforming structure due to the water setback if we don't address that. So I strongly urge the committee to address that issue should they consider an approval. And secondly, it appears we used the wrong average to the State Road center line when we switched from a detached garage to an attached garage. So again, if you consider approval based on the correspondence from the DOT, you will need to amend the application to state that it's coming to within 76 feet of the center line of State Road 73. But DOT didn't have a problem with it, and if anybody was going to, I think they would be the one. So that's it for my comments.
Okay, final variance to be considered. Roger and... What?
For the request for the 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Are we taking 10 minutes?
Yeah, 5. Now it's at least says like. Back.
Candy guy, Crafts.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
No, it's Phil's Hobby Shop.
Yeah, Phil's
Oh,
hobby.
Phil's, that one, yeah, that one, yeah.
Rough, I'm sure built that place.
Perhaps a little further down, and he's still blue.
With the addition on that, he was a half-assed
He could have been,
contractor.
yeah.
How's the new store coming?
Still waiting for some product to come in, but pretty well done.
You had enough product there to fill the new store before you built it.
Keeps coming.
Couldn't get a cart down that aisle if you tried.
He doubled the store size, he double your pay.
Yeah, right.
Double your workload.
On the 2-week plan.
Are they gonna hire more people or no?
They haven't yet.
Do they have more
Twice as big a
checkouts?
store.
Let's see if it brings in more business, I suppose.
They're gonna have to.
Now you can order online, I see
their-
advertising.
Yeah, their theory is it was built for minimum labor in the back end. But, you know, you got twice the customers. Twice the customer service.
Yeah.
And it's hard to
Place the returns.
Yeah,
and-
tough to get stuff done when you got that much customer
Yeah.
contact. I should go the restroom between sessions here. Coming out to yours.
You sell a lot of it too, don't you?
More dog food than I knew what names were even. No, 50 some bucks a bag for that blue buffalo, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I don't I like my dog, but not that much.
Okay. You don't need a rebuttal there, do you?
I don't think so.
Okay. Everyone's back. The final variance then, Roger and Donna Volden, Larson, Wisconsin, made an application for variance in accordance with section 58-542, paragraph C, paragraph 2, and 58-823, paragraph C and paragraph 2 of the Washera County zoning code to construct a 28 by 47 one-story single-family dwelling with a loft and walkout basement and a 10 by 28 concrete patio at basement level, a 10 by 28 deck at first floor level, and a 4 by 8 balcony at loft level, coming to within 10 feet of both the easterly and westerly side lot lines. 15-foot setback required on an existing non-conforming lot, non-conforming due to lot width, in the RS-20 residential single-family zone within the shoreline area. Location on approximate .386 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 6046, being part of the southwest one quarter, the southeast one quarter, Section 30, Town of Leon, Pearl Lake, W 4596 South Pearl Lake Road.
Good evening.
That's you.
That's me. I'm Roger Volden. One thing I don't know for sure today, did the Packers extend Aaron Rodgers' contract? That's the biggest thing.
Didn't hear.
We don't know. I thought it was supposed to be done today. So anyway, we're looking to
Make that as a condition of the
yeah. We're looking to raise our cottage and build a new place. The lot our land was certified in August of 2010. It is a non-conforming lot due to the width. We're applying for the variance to the side lot lines. We're about 140 feet away from the lake, and that particular distance will remain almost identical. We're not planning to encroach on that. We're about 125 feet away from the road. We've got approval, if you may, or from the side lot owners, letters from the two owners. The town of Leon went to the board meeting and discussed it with them, and we got a letter of approval from them. Verbal from the Pearl Lake Association. As Terry had mentioned, I did speak with Mike Wenholtz from the DNR Shoreland Zoning Department, and he didn't have any issues with it, mainly because it was so far away from the lake, and we're not going down on that, going down any farther. We are installing a new code compliant septic system. System is designed, and there's information that you've received showing the layout that the plumber feels would be the best layout for the lot. There will be gutters. Tom Litvin was there at one time with Amy, and we are planning at least to go by some revegetation of some type. We've already started by putting some clear stone in a drainage swales to try and keep as much as possible runoff from going down towards the lake area. If we do get the approval, we're going to be starting sometime around mid-August to early September and have the place enclosed approximately Thanksgiving time. So
Either you've done your homework or that's the advantage of going last. You answered almost all my questions.
there you go. Best to save for last.
Okay. You said you had a recent survey in 2010.
Yes.
You talked to the neighbors about this project?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, the neighbor to the east
where the proposed overhang will bring the home within 6 feet of the side lot line?
Yes, and he sent the letter in.
Okay. What type of foundation? Full basement?
Yes.
Okay. How far above existing grade will the first floor elevation be?
It'll be approximately 4 feet above current. It'll be almost identical to what the neighbor's house is for the new main level.
Yeah, that was my comment. When we were out there, you said it would be about the same first floor elevation as the neighbor to the west.
West, that is correct, yes.
Okay. And finished height?
Finished height is 34 foot 7 inches.
Okay, any other improvements planned at this time?
No.
All other setbacks will be met?
Yes.
Room enough to turn around coming out of the driveway?
Yes.
And enough parking in front of the garage?
Yes. Yeah, there's 125 feet there. Not too many parties we'll have that will extend that.
Plan paving the driveway?
In the future, it's very possible we may even do that at the spring of next year.
Okay. Any other committee questions? Okay.
Thank you much.
Correspondence?
Yes. Again, one of the things that we noticed at the site was we had not included that overhang over the walkway along the east side. And so Mr. Volden got a hold of the neighbor to the east, and he actually sent us 2 emails because the first one was a little vague, so we wanted some clarification, and then he sent us the second one. So these are both from Paul Nett, N-E-T-T, the neighbor to the east. And the first one says, Roger, this email is a follow-up to our conversation this afternoon concerning the setback of the walkway and cottage overhang. My only concern is the impact the granting of that variance would have on me in the future if I decided to build a new cottage. As long as I would be able to build just as close to the lot line in the future, I have no issues with granting the variance. If this variance does impact how close I could build to the lot line in the future, we would need to discuss it further to come to an agreement on how we can move this forward. I'm sure we can work something out if this is an issue. And then today we received a second one. Again, Roger, this is an email to a follow-up to our question. Let me start over, okay? This email is a follow-up to our conversation concerning the setback of the walkway and cottage overhang. I have no objection as long as granting of the variance for the overhang doesn't impact variances I may apply for in the future if I decide to rebuild my cottage. As long as variance considerations are based on proximity to the property line and not on proximity to structures on adjoining property, I have no issues with the variance being granted. I would be glad to discuss this further to better understand the restrictions and come to an agreement on how we can move this forward. I'm sure we can work something out if that is an issue. And that was signed Paul Nett.
His concern was he was afraid that as soon as I got a variance,
You should come up to the front.
Yeah. You can address this later in the rebuttal too, but just hang on.
Go ahead.
On March 15th, we received a letter from Lori Ingen, the clerk for the town of Rose. It's addressed to me. This is to inform you that at our March 13th meeting of the Town of Leon Board, Mr. Roger Volden presented the board with a packet of information regarding the construction of a home at W4596 South Pearl Lake Road. Mr. Volden went over the plans and answered questions to the satisfaction of the board. Therefore, Chris Sorensen moved and Russell Heisey seconded the motion that the board, having reviewed the information and receiving satisfactory answers to their questions, have no opposition to Mr. Volden's plans as presented. If you have any questions, you can reach me at, and thank you sincerely, Lauren Engen, clerk for the town of Leon. On Thursday, March 14th, we received an email from David and Connie Paulick, P-A-U-L-I-C-K, at W4602 South Pearl Lake Road. To whom it may concern, we are neighbors on the west side of the Volden property on South Pearl Lake Road in the town of Leon. We are aware that the Voldens will be raising the current cottage structure on the property and building a new one in the fall of 2013. We are also aware of the proposal for a non-standard side lot setback of 10 feet from our property line. This results in the proposed new structure being 4 feet closer to our lot line than the present structure. We are in full support of the Volden proposal and do not have any issues regarding the reduced side lot setback. We believe that the new structure will enhance the neighborhood, resulting in higher property values for all. Please feel free to contact me should you require any additional information from us. And again, that was Dave and Connie Pollock. And then tell me I don't have to reread the letter from Mike Wenholtz that says, "Thank you for letting me comment, but I have no comment."
Do not.
I'd appreciate it. Thanks. That's it for correspondence.
No one registered, staff comments?
I would just like to remind the board that we again have a variance here, and the onus of responsibility to prove that the variance is necessary does lie with the applicant. When the board visited the property, they noted that impervious surfaces will increase, resulting in an increase in stormwater runoff, and this could be an issue, but that those could be addressed with a stormwater management plan. With the planned overhang along the east side of the home over the walkway, the east lot line setback will be 6 feet instead of 10 feet as stated in the variance. I was uncomfortable with the first letter because it did kind of sound like that neighbor said, you can have this variance if I can build 6 feet from the lot line, and that's not quite the way it works. I think he understands now every variance is looked at, and you know, similar circumstances might come to the conclusion that you would get a similar setback, but it's not something that's guaranteed. So I am now much more comfortable with that lot line setback and amending the application should the board feel that that's something that they would allow. So that's it for my comments.
Now you have a chance to rebuttal.
Just as Terry mentioned, when Paul originally sent the letter, what he meant to say and what he actually wrote were a couple different things. And so in talking and having communication with Amy, I called and talked to Paul again and just explained that each one of the variances are a specific set of rules and regulations per the particular lot that you're going with. It's got really not anything to do with me or anyone else. And he sort of realized then that if he does something in the future, that it will be based on what his parameters are, and it'll be up to him to get it determined then, so.
Okay, thank you. That closes the public hearing for the Board of Adjustment. We will go right into our business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications presented tonight at the public hearing. Roll